Hello everyone, welcome back to our Jean, Daya
and Giov.
podcast.
Okay, Uncle Chigo. So right now, we're talking about what I like to call the ultimate geopolitical the glow up. So we're looking at Japan. In the mid 1800s, Japan was just a quiet island nation that kept to itself. But fast forward to 1905, they were a global superpower. They didn't just avoid the being bullied or colonized by Western countries, but they actually became the ones in charge. So how did they go from being a target to being a world leader in just a few decades? Jean, set the scene for us. This story starts with a knock at the door that sounded more like a sledgehammer, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's 1853 and the Commodore Matthew Perry rolls up with his black ships. He basically demands that Japan opens its door to the world. And let's be clear, this wasn't just a friendly trade proposal.
Yeah, it was basically a door or die situation.
Do or die.
Ay,
Door or die.
it was basically a do or die situation. Japan saw what happened in China during the Opium Wars, and they saw how the West could just take over. So when Perry showed up with those massive warships, the message was loud and clear: modernize or be colonized. The fear was, and that fear was the start for everything they did next.
Exactly. This wasn't just a friendly meetup, it was a full-on panic mode. The Japanese realized that they couldn't defend their home with a samurai swords if the other guys had industrial cannons. And that pressure forced them to rebuild their entire country from the ground up.
So, and that brings up to the Meiji restaurant, Meiji ba?
Yeah, Meiji.
So, and that brings us to the Meiji restoration. But this wasn't just a new boss, same as the old boss situation. Was it?
Not even close. It wasn't just a small fix, it was a total rebuild. And in 1868, they put the emperor back in power. But the real mission was Kokuko Kyuhei. I don't know what gun, but which basically means get rich and get a strong army. They didn't just copy the West, they took the best ideas from around the world.
And it's like a domino effect. You can't have a modern army without a modern industry to build the guns. And you can have industry without an education system. So to train the engineers, they sent the Iwakura mission on the global shopping trip. They basically looked for the best of the best, which the British ships, the German laws, and the American factories, and brought those ideas home to build the new Japan.
But rapid growth like that creates a new hunger. So if you build the massive industrial engine and high-tech military, you need fuel. So you need resources.
Yeah, and that's the big twist. The same things they built to stop people from bullying them. Their factories and their army are what turned them into the bullies. To keep their new machines running, they needed resources like the coal and iron that they didn't have at home. So they started looking at their neighbors' land to get what they needed.
So right, and that's the empire base. They didn't just stay on their islands, they pushed into Korea and Taiwan.
Yes, it was basically a join the club vibe. So Japan felt that to get to the West to respect them, they had to act like the West, which meant building their own empire. And they shocked everyone by winning a war against China in 1894. But the real viral moment was in 1905 when they defeated the Russia. It was a very huge deal because it was the first time in the modern history that an Asian nation beat a major European power.
Yes, sir.
Oy, oy.
And that's the ultimate mic drop moment. By 1905, the cycle was complete. Japan went from being one threatened by the warship to being the first non-Western country to use the same tactics to win. They became the how-to guide for any countries wanting to modernize fast, but they also provide a harsh reality. Because to get a seat at the table with the big powers, they ended up taking away the freedom of their neighbors.
So basically, the Japan went from being a closed-off island to a world empire in just one lifetime. It is the ultimate example of how a country can change to survive, even if the results were pretty mess for everyone else. Okay, we saw how Japan played the game, but now let's
This
talk
is
about
what
the
a
game
ride.
itself. I know.
But alright.
What a ride! Let's move to our final topic: the imperialism of as a global system. Okay, we've saw how Japan played the game, but now let's talk about the game itself. We usually think of empires as separate stories like the British in India or the French in Africa, but it wasn't just a random countries grabbing land. It was a massive, interconnected global systems that completely change how the whole world works. Chin, let's talk about the how. And this wasn't just about the countries putting flags on a map to look cool, right? It was a massive economic machine or a strategic plan, am I right?
Yes, the raw materials like rubber from Congo, the cotton from Egypt, and tin from Asia were shipped to factories in Europe and the US. And then those same colonies were forced to buy back the finished products. It was a very closed loop designed to make the empires rich, while colonies they stayed as suppliers.
Yeah, but to keep such an unfair system going, you need more than just weapons. You need an excuse or the why. That's where the things get dark. The colonizers use the social Darwinism, which is a fake science, to claim that some races were naturally better than the others. They called it a civilizing nation, which is acting like they were doing the world a favor by taking over. It was basically a way to justify stealing resources by pretending it was a burden that they had to carry.
So now, the style of rule wasn't the same everywhere. So some empires were hands-on while others were a bit more subtle.
So right. Say so right. Right. That's the direct versus the indirect rule. The French usually chose the direct rule. They sent their own bosses from France to run everything and to try make the local people act, speak, and live exactly like a French citizens. While the British, they often like the indirect rule. They let the local kings or leaders stay in charge. But the British were the man behind the curtain, telling those leaders exactly what to do.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, whether the boss was in front of you or hiding in the back, the result was the same. The local people lost control of their own
Lost.
life.
Lost,
Lost.
LU.
The local people lost control of their own lives. But all that pressure actually backfired by drawing lines on the map and forcing different groups to live under the colonial rule. The empires now they accidentally created the nationalism, and they basically forced people to unite, which giving the birth to resistant movements that would eventually kick the colonizers out.
So we're still dealing with the mess the systems left behind, right? So it isn't just something that happened in a long time ago.
Exactly. Just look at the map. Many borders in Africa and the Middle East were drawn by leaders in Europe who never actually visited those places. And they ignored the local cultures and groups living there, which is one of the reasons why so many conflicts in the 20th and 21st centuries.
We also have to look at the money problems left behind. Many colonizers were turned into, I call many colonies rather, were turned into one-trick ponies. They were forced to only produce one or two things like the cocoa or copper to send away to other countries. When they finally became independent, they didn't have any industries or factories of their own. And this created a huge wealth gap that is still really hard to fix today.
So imperialism wasn't just a moment in time. it completely reshaped the world, am I right?
Yes.
So it made some countries rich by intentionally keeping other countries poor.
Exactly. The wealth and success you see in cities like London or Paris was paid for by the resources and labor taken from places like Delhi or the Nairobi.
Ew, this is
Dili.
wow. That is
I don't know.
Let you go. That is a heavy topic, but it is absolutely essential if you want to understand why the
Yes.
world looks the way it does today. Jean,
Hmm?
Gio,
Yes.
thank you for connecting the dots.
Pastilan.
Thank you, Thank you everyone for listening to
Jean
Daya
And Gio.
Podcast.